GM. 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 So take a look at a couple of things. I see some takes that are a little bit incorrect. Let's put it that way. People talking about, look at the CVD, look how short it is. CVD's just been down only and down only, while spot, so futures have been shorting while spot have been buying. ETFs though, that's what you'd expect. The buying pressure is the spot that's getting bought to be sold over into the ETFs, so that's normal. The selling is most likely hedging by the market makers who are having to buy spot to then transfer it over to the ETFs. Right? There's probably some carry trade, there's probably some arbitrage that's been done. There's many different things that can be going on here that don't include people naked shorting Bitcoin, which I don't necessarily think is the case. I do think that whatever shorts have been opening here can close, right? And so I think you can see price having a push up. Like, there's loads of room for price to push up. If you're shorting now, this is a huge warning, red flag, fucking PSA. Shorting now is so dumb because you're at range low, right? You've had a sell-off. You've taken out some liquidity here. Came down, took out some stops. You then set a consolidation. You then took out more stops. So you've had double sweeps. Also, it's only day 2 of the ETFs. And day 2, there's still going to be hype, and there's going to be some real buying, there's going to be flows. That's all going to come in. Bitcoin can easily trade. Now, we might get a nice little sweep lower, but I don't think it loses this. Solid support today. And at the same time, I don't think it goes above that resistance above. So really, you look at that and you're like, long, not really that smart because I think we could see a sweep. But if it went down here, long's a far better trade for a grind up. And short, no. Short's just fucking terrible idea here. Because even though I don't think there directionally is a lot of shorts, there's definitely been some selling all the way through here. And if there's even any part of that, and we do have a build-up of open interest from over here, we do have an OI build-up currently of about 500 million. You know, if there's some of that is net short and has to close, you can see a move up. Remember, you don't want to short when there's guaranteed demand. There is going to be maybe not 4 billion like there was yesterday, but there could easily be another $1 billion of volume from TradFi today buying. The time to short Bitcoin is not when there's not literally fucking an hour before New York session when TradFi are going to come in and bid it up again. This is what happened yesterday. Look at the times. Bottomed out at 6 a.m., rallied up all the way into the New York Open, and for the first 30 minutes. This was the end of the Europe session going into the New York session. That's where we are now, right? Here was the kind of 6 a.m. We've gone more flat and sideways. We can have a weaker day, but we can still have the exact same thing. If it's ever going to rise, it'll be in this time frame. The time to short will be after that, in my opinion. But there's also no time to short. I don't recommend anyone shorts this. My thoughts are very clear on that. I think if you just focus for the next year on not shorting, you'll do much better. Now, there's another thing I didn't talk about on Trade of the Day, which is the other side of the shorts, which is CME futures. So you've also got CME futures who've been building up all the way. And I talked about how, TradFi likes to short, right? So there's 6.2 billion of OI on CME. Every contract has a long and a short. So one side of that is all short. And the question is, if they've taken on all these shorts all the way, how are they going to close them? Right? This CME futures interest, who's on the short side? Who's on the long side? And how do they close? Well, clearly, whoever's been shorting all the way up has been losing those shorts because price kept going higher. And they haven't been closing the shorts because OI has been rising. So on balance, the shorts have been staying open. Normally they're hedged. It's normally market makers who are hedged, meaning, yeah, they're shorting the contract, but they're buying spot. So they're delta neutral. So they're not at directional risk. But they do still have to close those shorts, and to close those shorts, that's buying pressure, and buying pressure will push the market up. But at the same time, they should be dumping the spot to remain delta neutral. So the question becomes, is that going to play out perfectly efficiently, or are we going to see some kind of pump or dump? And always it doesn't play out perfectly efficiently, and that's why you do see some kind of pump or dump along with open interest. So you want to be watching the OI. I wouldn't be surprised if we squeeze to 50k because a bunch of this CME, the short interest is trying to get out and it's just too crowded and there's a lot of buying pressure. Like the guys who got short on the CME probably were expecting that the longs would start taking profit once it closes, but the longs haven't touched their trades yet. And it'll be really interesting to see what they do today. So as from yesterday going into today, 6.59, it's dropped down to 6.2. So about 300 million has closed out on the ETF day. That's less than I would have expected. I would have thought a lot more of that would have closed out already. Today, though, could be the day where you see big reductions in CME futures open interest during the New York session. Because if they're playing the ETF trade, and the ETF trade is played out, are they going to want to carry these positions into the weekend when TradFi is closed? And remember, it's a long weekend as well. And a lot can happen to Bitcoin over the long weekend. Right? So I think it's going to be really hard for Bitcoin to go up today with that in mind, unless the ETF new flows are overwhelmingly positive. But I think both are probably going to cancel each other out. But you want to be watching really closely. Watch the CME OI. If what happens today is what I think will happen, I think you'll see a big reduction in the futures OI on CME today. And finally, last thing I want to talk about is like typically what I expect to see next, which is I'm going to look at others and total 3. And just look at some of these previous moves. So there's Bitcoin, there's total 3, there's others dominance, and there's total 3. I'll just put them on top of each other, right? So in July, Bitcoin topped out, then the dominance of others, which is altcoins, went up, and then total 3 went up, broken out, and stayed up for a bit longer than Bitcoin. It's just basically like a mini alt season. Over here, we had just a few days of it. Bitcoin topped out on April 14th. Alts continued to outperform briefly, and then everything shit the bed. But if we go back to bull run, which is really what we're in, and we look at bull run price action, when you're in a bull run, you tend to see more outperformance for a longer period. Right? So, like we had over here, when you're looking at total 3, total 3 peaked out as a market cap around the same time. Let me see, let's get this all dragged down. Right, there you go. So Bitcoin peaked on 9th of November. Total 3 as a market cap peaked, but the others' dominance rose and continued rising. So even though the total 3 market cap didn't go higher, altcoins did, rotation-wise. As Bitcoin sold off much more aggressively, you saw the dominance, which is the market cap relative of alts. It was rising much stronger. That meant that money was flowing through into alts. But because the total 3 didn't rise, it meant it wasn't new money, it was just money being recycled through. This is very important. If total 3 keeps rising, that's new money coming in. Because the total cap is rising for total 3, for the altcoins. If you see others' dominance rising, that means it's gaining dominance against Bitcoin. But if you see Bitcoin dropping, others' dominance rising, and total 3 dropping, that's usually a bad sign. It means we're late stage rally, alt season, whatever. And you can see that more clearly when you look back slightly. And this is where I think we are now, probably most likely, is this. We've had the first peak, and while Bitcoin basically goes sideways here, slightly up but basically sideways, the altcoins have new money, like total cap rises and rises aggressively. Dominance rises and aggressively as well, until we have some kind of topping event, which I think might be around the Chinese New Year, Super Bowl type of area. So all that is to say, if nothing else changes, I'm expecting the market to be bullish here for alts, especially if Bitcoin does end up lagging and struggling under all the TradFi kind of flows. And in terms of the altcoin market, it's pretty healthy. Like, you don't see others, like if others' dominance is breaking out and rising super aggressively, that's usually a sign of, people are getting more and more and more into alts. But others' dominance is way down from its peak. Total 3 looking healthy. Total 3, if it breaks out, that's probably new money coming in. Money flowing from Bitcoin into total, also some money coming in off the sidelines. I think at that point you've got a couple of weeks. But we'll see. What you don't want to see, which is exactly the right thing that the thing I am seeing is good, is that we already had total 3 breaking out, right? Total 3 already broke out over here, and the others' dominance had a run as well, while Bitcoin went sideways. Bitcoin then pushed higher, that's important, and the dominance dropped. So money flowed out of alts into Bitcoin, ran it up. As Bitcoin comes back, even just if Bitcoin only just comes back to where it was before the dominance started to slide off, all that money is going to flow into alts. And you're going to see alts. Maybe you're not going to see total 3 go up straight, because if Bitcoin dropped back, you'd see total 3 drop a little bit, but then absolutely rip, and you'd see the total dominance, others' dominance, rise too. This is the clearest rotation I can see. And the red flag to watch out for me would be if others' dominance makes a new high before total 3. Right? If total 3 doesn't make a new high, remember, that means money's not coming in. It's not new money, it's recycling. But others' dominance, that means the altcoin dominance is higher. So there's not new money coming in, but people are holding more alts. That's a super red flag. Others' dominance means people are holding less Bitcoin, less Ethereum, and they're holding more alts. But if total 3 is not making new highs, that means there's not new money coming in. It's the same old money, and it can't even push it to new highs. That's when people have just got themselves balls long alts, and they're essentially fucked. So keep that in mind too. Total 2 is already making new highs because of Ethereum. That's new money as well, like that's money flowing in. Whenever Ethereum has its run and finishes its run, that money will probably flow down into alts briefly as well. So overall, I think it's buy the dip for alts. For me, I'm not going to long Bitcoin again for quite a while. I'm just going to stay with all my spot bags, but I don't think the upside is in Bitcoin anymore. I think it's in alts. And I think if we see Bitcoin flush back down to the low 40s, I think that's when you see the biggest rotation into alts. So, trade of the day, done, GM.